Hi everyone, another video here. It's been a while since the last one. Yay, you all think. If you follow the channel or if you know me, then you kind of know where this is going to head. It's another play around with something that has the potential to be really interesting. It's very embryonic. It's pretty janky, it's pretty rough, but that's how these things start. So I have a mission to rid myself of ZBrush entirely because I hate sculpting in ZBrush. So I'm trying to move all my sculpting into Blender. And so this is a quick vid showing some new bits of kit and a little kind of workflow that I'm playing with that might help me, and in doing that help customers and clients by making things either a bit quicker or a bit more efficient or a bit more interesting. It's also about AI, I guess. I'm very conflicted over AI because on the one hand, I think the technology is really interesting and there's a lot of potential for it and a lot of opportunity to do things in a new way and to leverage the tech to create some brilliant stuff. But the flip side is nobody likes AI being trained on all their stuff. There's all kinds of problematic kind of moral and IP issues around it. And also, you know, the simple fact is that whilst it's a great tool for designers and it's a great aid and it can do some amazing stuff, the perception of it is that it is capable of designing, and it isn't. It's a visualization tool. It's not a design tool. AI cannot infer, it cannot symbolize, it can't make an allegory, it can't do satire, it can't do sarcasm. So it cannot take a client brief and do something unexpected with that. Think of the silk cut adverts from the 70s and 80s, you know, taking an idea, quite an oblique idea to begin with, and turning it into something visually very striking and memorable. It's almost like a, you know, like memes. You know, memes rely on an understanding of previous iterations of the meme to be funny, and that understanding allows people to play with the concept of the meme. You know, it's almost kind of fourth wall breaking or sort of meta jokes, and AI doesn't do any of that. And I think, you know, coin design will suffer, or design in general will suffer, if that is removed from it and it becomes simply about airbrushed decoration. So I'm in a place of conflict with it, but, you know, rather than fold my arms, dig my heels in and say, well, I'm of a previous generation, I'm not going to get involved, I'm going to stick with my craft and that was what was best. I'd rather own the conversation about what constitutes design and value in design and what use the new technology has. And it's going to feature in this little vid. So I'm going to shut up and get on with what I wanted to show you. So this is a Blender add-on called Basify. I'm in Blender 4.4 alpha, so apologies if it crashes because it's a new build, but it's got the new. They've just remade the sculpting setup in Blender, and this all the tools are new, and it does some great stuff. So I'm having a play with that, but. This add-on is by a guy whose name I can't remember, Davis something or other. I'll put it in the comments below, in the info below. He's made this add-on. He's only got like 15 subscribers on YouTube, and I have no idea why, because this is an amazing bit of kit. What it is going to do, it has created a frame here. I've just plump my kind of standard coin runner over the top just to give us a bit of a frame, but it is going to allow me to create a relief from a collection of different objects underneath, and it's going to do that in quite a cool way. So first of all, we've got some options to divide our mesh up into ticks. You can do imperial or metric. You can change how many ticks are in it. You can change the size of the frame and the depth of the frame as well. So you can set it in a number of different ways. And then we've got an option to bring in meshes, or we've got an option to bring in depth maps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a mesh Here's one I prepared earlier. Right, it's a bit on the big side. That it's a Spitfire. Right, there we go. Okay. Which has, I think, have I already smoothed that? Let's have a look. Shade flat. No, I haven't. Right, what I'm going to do is just quickly stick a subdivision surface on that just to tidy it up a bit. It's not a fab model. It was a free one off Turbo Squid, but it will do the job. And it's a Spitfire because it's now become relevant in a minute. So what I'm going to do with this Spitfire is GZ, drop it down underneath into this box. So this is our probe. Where's it gone? Probe. So this is the space in which the add-on is going to look to create its bas-relief on the surface here. So I've got my Spitfire selected, and what I'm going to do is create from mesh. Yep, use the original selections. That'll do. We don't mind. Okay, so you can see what it's done kind of straight away. It's done that. But the cool thing is that I can, if you'll bear with, let's just turn that around a bit, and let's do, hang on. I'm not used to working in a mouse. There we go. Let's turn that, give it a bit of an oblique angle. Right, I'm gonna, as you can see, it's clipping through, but that's okay, because what we're going to do is grab Z and we'll bang it down. Now, so you can see it's now sitting within this probe depth, and what has happened is that Basify has created a relief directly from that. So as I turn the model underneath, the relief alters to suit, which I really like. Doesn't have a huge amount of detail in it, but that kind of isn't the point, because with things like, you know, Spitfires, I mean, we've just had the Olympics. Eiffel Tower is a great case in point. You know, that sculpting the Eiffel Tower, I mean, who really wants to sculpt the Eiffel Tower by hand every time they do a coin? It's certainly not me. It's a great building, but it's very intricate, and to resculpt it from different viewpoints, you know, every time you do a coin is not fun. So being able to kind of manipulate it in real time and then just generate even a base mesh from it. I mean, this is not detailed enough for a sculpture at all, but it creates a nice starting point. You know, you've got the line of the wing in, you know, all these things that, you know, oblique angles of aeroplanes and vehicles are often quite tricky to sculpt and to get, you know, to get right. And you spend a lot of time playing with the main structure of them to get them to look right. Whereas with this, we can, you know, play with it live and then get a base mesh to start with. So this is kind of cool. So what I can do once I have sort of got that, we can play with the depth of the relief as well. Let's bung that up a bit. I mean, I'm so used to doing circulating coin. Let's give it at 45. There we go. That's a bit better. That's got quite a big step, but there is a way we can play with that, which I'll have to figure out afterwards. Let's keep it down on a smaller step just so it doesn't look so ugly. Once we've got our models in place, we can then jump to a sculptable version of the relief, which then has various sculpting tools within it. So we got quite a nice little grab and move brush, which allows us to kind of tweak the tweak the lines. I mean, not that I want to tweak the lines on the wings of an aircraft because they're pretty straight, but you get the idea. And what we can also do is we've got a Z up and down move as well. So we can do something like this. This is not how I would approach flattening down these wings, but it's just a so we can, if we feel like the end of this wing is a bit, it's a bit high, so I'm going to just drop that down, push, and what I've done is made quite an ugly dent around the outside. What I can do is click this button and it fills in everything below Z0 with a flat plane, which is going to be really handy, just simply to be able to maintain a flat plane outside of a model, especially with things like proof coin, where you want that hard edge and you want a flat background. So I can go back to my dynamic relief that I'm building with my airplane, and any changes I make to this will not be reflected in this. So each time I make a change to the main relief, I have to make a new sculptable one, but that's kind of cool. So as well as importing from a mesh, we can import from a depth map, and this is where the opportunities get a bit more interesting, because the reason I chose a Spitfire was I was thinking about Winston Churchill, because I do, as you do, and one of the problems with creating a coin featuring somebody like Winston Churchill, who's been dead a long time, is there are only a limited number of visual references left or existing of Winston Churchill, and that means that every coin has to use the same visuals to create the same sculptures. There's no way around that. You can't create any new sculptures, but with the help of AI we can begin to bridge that gap a little bit. So I've been on Leonardo and I've bunged in a one-line prompt to get some photos of, I mean, it's not Winston Churchill, but it's close enough to create a base from which to sculpt. I think it would be good enough, and then as you sculpted through it you would work on the likeness from existing reference photos. But what you're not doing is directly copying an existing photo, which A, means you can do something more interesting, and B, it resolves any uncomfortable IP issues about taking models directly from existing photographs, which is becoming more and more of a problem these days. So it's kind of giving you a sort of starting point, a reference that you wouldn't have been able to get otherwise. So you could kind of take something like this and start modeling with it. But what I thought, well, can we take that a step further and generate a base mesh directly from the image that we can then start sculpting on? So I did. So I found a bit of code on Google Colabs. I'll put the link in the comments because I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called. That basically takes a photograph and generates a depth map from it. It is not a detailed depth map by any stretch. I've been going through all the different iterations of depth map generators that are available out there. This one was a complete swizz because that is not a depth map. That is just a black and white photo. So no thanks. But what we can do is depth map, import depth map. I'll bring Winston in. All right. And so we can bring in a mix of, let's tuck him down there so he's actually in the frame, a mix of 3D models and 2D depth maps that if we push the bias down it'll get rid of that background. So you can see we can play with the strength a little bit. It is by no means an end result. It's not a viable end result, but it's enough to begin modeling on top of, So it's taken away that first stage of model building, building up your kind of facets and your planes to add detail to. So it's going to make that A lot quicker, and B, give an opportunity to adjust this in 3D on the fly, or based on comments from clients, or seeing something that really isn't working and deciding you want to change it. So in this sense, you could do this on the fly. I mean, you could put some of the detail in and then sort of project that over the top afterwards, and you play with it. There's all kinds of places you can go. I'm going to see what happens if I use a more detailed 3D model. I got a really nice X-Wing fighter somewhere with loads of detail on it. I'll give that a try and see how much of that comes through. But I'll save that for a second video. This is really just about getting the concept down so I don't forget it and other people can kind of see and comment. So there's a workflow here that interests me, just because it's a bit off the wall and we're trying to do something different. It interests me because it's demonstrating a use case for AI generated imagery that is not just typing something in and taking whatever it throws out and using that as your coin design, because I don't believe that is right. I don't believe that is the way forward, and I believe that is damaging to whichever industry it's being used in, whichever creative industry. I think that is not the way forward. So it's about saying, that there are ways we can use this, there are things we can do with this, and actually, you put it in the hands of people who know what they're doing and with a bit of a creative mind, and see what we can come up with. It's a on-the-fly, editable relief design generator, which I think is kind of cool. And I'm going to talk to the people involved in this and see what can happen to it next. So chuck a comment in, get in touch if you want to have a chat about stuff we might be able to do with this, or some interesting places we can take it. All good stuff. So I'll put the details of the links for everything in the info below. But do follow, see what happens next, or give me a shout if you are interested in talking about it more.